Fantastic panel now talking about one of the most important debates going on at the moment in games, and we want to try and sort of get into it. I know there's some flight arrangements we need to work around, but let me just introduce you to Martin. Martin, I didn't realise you're a Scrum Master. That's like proper hardcore stuff. Wow.
It's really hardcore.
I mean, not only is he doing all sorts of cool stuff with investment and game production, all that kind of stuff, he's actually a Scrum Master. So greatest respect. I'm going to let you do the introductions to the rest of the panel. I know you've got some great guys here. Take it away.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Martin de Koning. I'm Director of Business Development at DDM. DDM is considered as one of the most leading video game talent agencies in the world. We represent a lot of key talent, Ninja Theory in the UK, Jaeger in Berlin, Sproing in Austria. In total we have 35 clients worldwide. So today we're going to talk about premium versus free-to-play publishing. We're going to have a look at how free-to-play changed the traditional publishing model. We look at how the relationship with the publisher and the developer has evolved. We'll also be talking a little bit about how that works out in terms of actual game design and how you adapt to that. So therefore I want to start first with the panelists. So I'm going to start off with Sean. Sean, you want to? Otherwise use that one.
Great. Hi, you hear me now? Good. My name is Sean Clark. I'm from Big Fish Games. I've been in the industry for about 23 years as both a developer and a publisher, working on all sorts of different platforms. Currently am the director and executive producer for free-to-play games at Big Fish for third party.
David?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is David. I'm working for a company called ProSiebenSat.1 Games. ProSiebenSat.1 is one of the largest media groups in Germany and Europe. And I'm currently the head of mobile games division.
Hey, I'm Matt from Rovio. I'm our head of developer relations. I find our content for our Rovio Stars platform, and I've been at Rovio since 2008. I ran our marketing unit until summer 2011, and now I'm trying to move into the publishing world with Rovio on a large scale.
Hi everybody, my name is Yevgen LEONOV. I'm representing Renatus Media LLC, and probably I'm the only guy speaking Russian here in this panel. And it's a great honor to be present here. We're a new publisher. We've launched just last year ago, and in the US, and we work exclusively with Eastern European game developers. I can say we have offices here in Ukraine and in the US, and I'm guy working for this company in Ukraine, just developing relationships with our game developers.
Thank you. So before we start, I made 6 questions. If people have questions in between, feel free to raise your hand and we can answer those questions. We don't have a lot of people here in the audience, but who is still developing premium games currently? A few. Okay, so let's start off with the first question. Now looking purely from the publisher perspective, what has been the biggest challenge for you as a company to adapt to free-to-play? Who wants to start with Matt, probably?
It's kind of a funny question for me to start with because we haven't really adapted to free-to-play yet. Yeah, there's a big change, obviously, in the market in the last year. Paid games are they're not performing like they used to. So free-to-play is something for Rovio. We're trying to get into the land of free-to-play. We're learning from the ground up, and it's changed things in a way that you can't just make a game. You have to build the monetization from day one, and it takes a completely different analytical mindset. So things are changing, and we're trying to adapt.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there a little bit of history about ProSieben. We were one of the very first companies, I guess, worldwide that advertised online games via TV. So I think it was about 2007 where we advertised big points titles, browser games Dark Orbit and Sea Fight, and I think we contributed very much to their success. And these titles are free-to-play titles, so for us we were there almost at the beginning. And we took, of course, a lot of risk advertising that, and TV media is not for free, it's not something that we have in infinite abundance, and therefore, I would say, yes, we've been there from early days. And now in the online gaming space, where we publish Sony online entertainment games exclusively in Europe and also mobile, we're only focusing on free-to-play. Yeah.
Yep, cool.
Well, trying to answer your question, I can say that we came into free-to-play model right from the start. As I said, we are new, and the biggest challenge was to us was to become competitive, and we realized that we could not get through with any other type of model, just free-to-play. We chose it from the start.
Okay, that's a good thing.
You know, for us, having been in the business for about 11 years now and published over 3,000 titles on PC and Mac and 300 now on the App Store, the pivot wasn't as difficult as we actually anticipated, because we already had built in a big infrastructure in terms of support, production support for all the different types of games. It's absolutely true, and everybody's absolutely right, that the games are completely different when you build a free-to-play game. And so it's taken a little effort to learn that culturally inside the company, so that we actually make the adjustment and acknowledge that the games are different, and you can't just bolt on a free-to-play economy onto a premium game. But we've made that transition pretty well. And the other kinds of pain points really have been pretty minor. We've had to address our forecast models at finance, right, because they're different. But other than that, it's actually been pretty straightforward. We have added a lot more analytics, as Matt was saying. It's kind of a big deal. It's a different mindset to get your head around it. But we've already had a very significant business intelligence team and game analytics team. We've expanded that dramatically, but other than that, it's been pretty solid so far.
Okay. So this is obviously an obvious question. I mean, what does that mean for the relationship with the developers you're now working with? I mean, especially now with the free-to-play, you more have a long-term relationship, like a marriage, basically. Are we talking more about a real partnership, whereas with the traditional model, the biggest incentive was obviously getting development funding? Publisher was made all the calls, basically, whereas now you want to work with free-to-play developers that actually bring in the knowledge in terms of the game design. How has that been working out for you guys with the developer relationships?
So we've always been very collaborative with our partners, and we don't tend to dictate. We've all heard the horror stories, and I've worked for companies that did that too in the past. But what's changed for us is the responsibility of the product after launch, and that's kind of been the big mindset to get people into. Is you don't launch the game and walk away. You have to maintain it post-launch, and so the deal terms have to modify a little bit so that there's enough cash flow post-launch in order for iterations of the game to continue to come on. We already have very deep, long-standing relationships with most of our developers. I think we work with about 140 exclusive relationships around the world. But the nature of the change has been thinking long-term as opposed to getting the game out the door and seeing how it performs. It's getting out the door, seeing how it performs, and then iterate and keep looping on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one game which we will launch together with Come2Us as a Korean developer is they have a very sophisticated game management service which we will make use in order to communicate with the users in-app. So, and there are many things that we will do, in-app cross-promotion stuff, in-app events, promotional item events. And so that has to be, as you said, Sean, in a collaborative fashion. And we love to actually work together in an agile fashion, so that, as you said, you're a Scrum Master. We see the view of the publisher more some sort of a product owner, and being highly integrated in the teams. Maybe not, of course, work in the daily stand-ups, but take the role of a product owner in order to be involved in the process in the long term to make this thing going. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, our first two published titles were clearly paid games, and launching those titles was a very different activity to the next game, which we're launching, which is going to be free to play. For the first two titles, we worked with the developer so that the game was perfectly polished for that big launch date, where we had the cinematic trailers, gameplay trailers, and we tried to blast it straight to the top of the charts. But then because of the opportunity cost of us promoting a paid title is quite high versus a free-to-play title, you need the game to have some viral sticky factor to just sit in the top of the pay chart by itself, more or less, because the incentives to keep pushing it in the network are very hard when there's other things that we obviously need to promote. But yeah, we got to the free-to-play title that we're going to publish very soon, and then you have to work with the developer from very early stage, talk with them through their soft launch, look at the funnel of the game, look at the viral factors, and well, it's a much more of a strategic partnership long term. And like Sean was saying, the deal terms definitely have changed. If the game is ROI positive, you have to be ready to go out and keep spending on this title. So. Yep. It's a partnership that's going to go probably for a lot longer time if the game metrics make sense.
Yep. Cool.
I totally agree with my colleagues, and I can add that from our point of view, your relationships with as a publisher, with the developer within the free-to-play model are totally engaging. A publisher is engaged on every stage of game design, and it's not just submitting a game to a store. You just look at performance and realize that something is to be changed in the game, and 99% of the games we're publishing are free to play. The same about games that come from game developers. So yes, that's
your bread and butter actually already. So yeah. Okay, thank you. So the third question is basically, does free-to-play blur the line between business and design? I mean, that's something a lot of developers are a little bit afraid of. I mean, free-to-play is sometimes evil, breaks gameplay, rips off their beloved community. What's your opinion on that?
So yeah, there's no question, and I think you've heard it three or four times now. The free-to-play games are quite different from premium games, and they need to be designed differently. I would say that yes, they do blur the lines more between the creative of the game itself and the entertaining experience, as well as the business model of the game, because each game is a business model, as opposed to a purchase it once kind of moment. In a premium game, it is a constant need to be purchased. That said, there are certainly examples of that tension not working well, and there's a lot of free-to-play games got bad reputation because they did a bad job of encouraging you to purchase the game without actually giving you something in return, or to go out and spam all your friends to get you to add your friends to the game and get them to adopt the game with very little in return as well. Games that do it well, actually it's not a painful experience, and actually the business model and the entertainment of the game start to become aligned again. So I do believe that a well-made game thought through well can actually entertain and ask you for money at the same time. It's a challenge, and it's going to require some education of the developer and a lot of iteration sometimes, but it can absolutely be done.
Agreed.
We're done here.
Yeah. No, I want to mention two things on that, because we're a third-party publisher, and we source worldwide, in Korea as well, China, United States, everywhere around the globe, and we tend to see a tendency of Asian games, in particular Korean games, to be very hard monetizing very early. So they force you very often to take out your wallet and pay. So that, of course, sometimes is a problem for, I would say, European audiences. So that is definitely a challenge that we see, and we need to convince, therefore, the developer that maybe we need to be a little bit more nicer to the user in that sense. Another thing which we haven't experienced, but another partner publisher company had this experience, is that when you raise prices after you have done a first release, there was a huge shitstorm by the community, which can effectively kill the game, the success of the game. And in markets like Germany, where users are, I mean, they take out their calculator and calculating, oh my God, they changed the formula, and all of a sudden they're doing really bad things, and the community was basically killing the company. So that's something definitely you need to take into consideration.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges for Rovio with free-to-play is we're a company that really likes to build brands, and it's hard to build a brand in free-to-play because you are constantly trying to monetize the user. So we're having the biggest difficulty of finding the balance of just creating a fun game and only monetizing people when they want to be monetized or when they feel like giving over money without forcing the purchase constantly in the games. So I mean, when our free-to-play push, we're really not going to try to be aggressive monetizers as we want to build that long-term brand with our fans. And I think that's kind of the biggest issue with getting free-to-play right versus premium, because you can have a good premium experience and nobody feels ripped off afterwards, unless the game is terrible. But with a free-to-play game, sometimes even if the game is good, you'll still have a sense of being ripped off, and you don't have the same brand attachment at the end of the session.
Good point.
I actually think that Fairway Solitaire is probably one of the best examples of a game that doesn't monetize you very hard, and you can have a very good gaming session without feeling like they're just trying to squeeze you for money.
Yes. Well, the answer is yes, of course. Difficult to add anything. Yes, I just wanted to say the same, that in free-to-play, you ought to find the balance between soft and hard monetization. Not only monetization, you have to ensure that your mechanics suit your target audience well all the time.
Yeah. Okay. The fourth question, I mean, what are the additional services you guys bring to the table compared to premium publishing? Like I said just now, is that the biggest incentive for developers was development funding, basically, getting the game out, and that was it. Obviously, now you guys come in a later stage, alpha or beta, and work from there. So what are the typical services you bring to the table for the developer?
And so again, sort of like the first question for us, it hasn't changed that dramatically. We've been doing this for a long time. Most of our games that we release and most of the revenue comes from third-party relationships. We already provide sort of a wide range of production services, including producers who work with you, who are experts on our customer, as well as the content that we're developing. We have about a quarter of our company's dedicated to customer support, so we handle that piece of it. And that hasn't changed. We have usability and customer support, or customer research that we do. So we bring in customers, they play the game, we videotape that, we send that to developers so they can see what's going on. All of that is the same. We've already had, like I mentioned, a robust business intelligence group, in-game data analysts and financial people who understand sort of how games should be modeled so we can understand if they're going to make money or not. We have this beta program that we use. It's actually quite accurate in predicting revenue. What we've done that's different is we've layered in more business intelligence and more analytics. And so we provide analytics packages to developers. We provide the expertise on our side to help analyze the data and see what's going on with the game and provide that collaborative feedback. But for the most part, not much has changed. We still have a huge customer support department. We still have producers that work with the games. We still have the same pipeline we've always had. And then in terms of just the longer term relationship, we just remain collaborative post-launch, as opposed to, okay, we're done, let's move on to the second game. We remain collaborative beyond that so that we can continue to make the game better.
So as ProSiebenSat.1 Games Media Group, we basically bring 4 values to the table. 1 is money, 2nd distribution, 3 network, and 4 free-to-play consulting. So money is definitely, we'll talk about, I guess it's one of the next questions, but when we talk about terms. Can also be co-development, development funding, things like that. Distribution, we're very much, I would say, unique in Europe when it comes to advertising mobile games on TV. And we showed that we're able to actually boost games into the charts with a decent amount of TV, so that works very well. We are able to boost a large portion of volume and continue to support that actually. And we have free, so to say, inventory, but that is actually not 100% for free. So we have internal competition for that TV media. So we need to, of course, bring well-performing games to the table. And the third is that we are, as I said, network. What I mean by that is that ProSiebenSat.1 Group is a very big, diversified media group with business in e-commerce, music, entertainment. So for one example we did was we have a sports show called Run, and we did like a game called Run Real Boxing, and we put a boxer called Felix Sturm. He's not as famous as Vladimir Klitschko, but we brought him into the game actually. So we got a really good community support from the fan base, and it was a really nice synergistic case where we have cross-media, trans-media campaigns. And lastly, free-to-play consulting, something we're currently building upon. I mean, building out actually. We just launched 4 games, and next year we're planning to launch 15 to 20 games. And as we grow, so this is something that we will offer as an additional service to kind of have a good discussion on monetization and game design with the game developer.
Yeah, I think we look at publishing a little bit different. Why we're attractive as a publisher is we're only going to ever put out 5 to 10 games a year and really invest a lot of time and marketing in each of these titles. We bring in first-line customer support, our own analytics, usability testing, access to we have like a crack team at Rovio of monetization experts and virality experts. So we give them access to these people so they can really help make the game funnel as best it can be. And a big thing is that we have a huge quality assurance group that makes sure all the games go out and they're working perfectly from day one. I think the biggest reason, though, that we're attractive as a developer is we can put, as a publisher, is we can put a massive marketing commitment into the contract that we can hit. And I don't think there's many people in the game that can really push like we can on launch day.
Analytics, testing, co-production, and maybe community management. As we're working with mostly developers from Russia or Ukraine, it's very important for the developers to have a producer that understands them and speaks their language. That's why we have producers responsible for each lineup of games, certain lineup. And the same about the QA team. It's also located here. And our company supports the community as well. Yes, we have native speakers that work with comments, and that's a way. That's a source where you can get direct feedback from users. It's very important.
So you basically also tweak the content per region, I assume, culturalization and such, or with your producers?
Sorry?
So I assume, I mean, you said that you're also releasing games in other territories. So I assume you also tweak the content with your producers?
Well, as of now, about 90% of the audience is English speaking, but we are only penetrating to new markets.
Okay.
Just investigating, just preparing everything for that.
Yep. So the 5th question. Do you think that free-to-play has a certain genre effectiveness? I mean, a lot of people say, well, free-to-play only applies to a certain range of games, like the typical village builders, etc., etc. But yeah, what's your opinion on that in terms of the game genres, etc.?
I would say absolutely no. Actually, free-to-play, many people actually believe it started with Cartwriter in Korea in the 90s, and that was a fairly kind of not hardcore, but a mid-core racing game with carts, and everything was free except for the boosts. And basically, people were making, I think, $1 million a day for a while with that game, and that was sort of how it showed up on EA's radar, which is when we started talking about it quite a bit too. In the mobile store now, and a lot of this focus lately has been on mobile, and that's fine because that's a big growth business, and that's where a lot of people are playing games now. And it is kind of by its nature somewhat casual. And good for us because we're doing casual games, right? It's Casual Connect. And we've seen a lot of genres take off, and we've seen, you know, match threes do well, and we've seen bubble poppers do well, and we've seen all the different kind of classic mechanics do well. So again, I don't think it's necessarily tied to a mechanic or a genre tied to free-to-play. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Clash of Clans came out of somewhere and basically did a tower offense game, and that worked pretty well too. So I think that there's a lot of room in there for free-to-play. It's just a different way of thinking about how the game makes money, not necessarily what the game mechanic is. So that's my opinion.
We're actually taking a look only at free-to-play game, regardless whether it's casual or mid-core. What we see in the deal for what's interesting is that we see casual game mechanics being mingled with adventure, strategy simulation type of games, or I even saw a game which was a trading card game with poker elements, so we could battle each other with poker. So basically, I would say, of course, there are some genres like shooter. I think it's tough for free-to-play to be monetized. We see some elements there where you have more pay-to-win thing going on, and we have some challenges there. But I think when you kind of mingle those genres together and provide PvP and PvE modes, so we like actually games which provide PvP and PvE. Those tend to, I think, monetize better. So I have the same opinion. I mean, I guess it works out for every genre, pretty much.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think free-to-play can work for every genre. Some of them are obviously going to monetize better, the resource management games, and I think it's created a new wave of games which are kind of mixed titles, like build battles and, like you were saying, was it poker and trading cards. And clearly, you know, trading cards is a good genre to monetize with, and you can add the poker aspect to it for the battling. A lot of the developers that I see these days, and a lot of games that are doing well in the charts, they're taking their game, let's say a tower defense game, and they're mixing it up with some resource management so that they can monetize on that part and keep the core gameplay still like it would have been in a traditional tower defense game. So I think it's just changed the mentality of how you go about creating the title rather than limiting genres.
Well, considering the fact that we're a publisher of social games on Facebook and mobile on App Store and Google Play, and the fact that last year we were new to this market, we selected for ourselves those genres that would only be successful in free-to-play, namely match threes, like bubble shooters, also slots games and hidden objects games. So that's those were the three basic genres, and I think they work for free-to-play model best. And speaking about premium, I think basically any game can be successful as premium as well, but it should be backed by a recognizable brand, so that people know what they pay for. And when you're a new brand, it's hard to work with premium.
Yep. Okay. So the final question, at least for me, what's the typical deal structure with the developer? I mean, it's an obvious question. When do you get in? How does it work out?
Now it's important that I go first. Suddenly now, okay. A couple of answers to that. First of all, I'm not going to answer that question, and I'm going to explain why. I have a really good reason why. Actually, I have a couple. One is that the deal terms that we make with our developers change. The reason is that there's no one standard template that's going to work with every single developer the same way. Every developer has different needs. We've been doing this for a long time. Same thing was true with us working on premium, and still is as we do premium titles. Same thing holds true with free-to-play. You come to the table, maybe you need money, maybe you need rev share, maybe you need both. I mean, it's a different conversation, but we're a lot of both, I should say. So we tailor our terms to each developer's needs. There is no one template, so I can't answer that question, actually. The second one is that I'm not going to, even if I could, because that is a relationship between us and our developer. It's a confidential relationship, and I don't have permission from my developer partner to tell you what those terms are. And as unethical as some publishers are called out, and we all heard the horror stories about others, and especially the old days of retail and console, we're not that, and so we protect that information. In terms of when we get involved, we actually get involved any time in the process. Actually, we prefer to get in earlier than alpha and beta, which is what you had mentioned before. We'd much rather actually work with developers when they have a vision and they have an idea and they have passion before all those things get cynically taken away from them because they're tired and they've been working a long time. We'd actually rather see design documents and concept docs and talk it through and be a partner from the very beginning and be a collaborative partner from the very beginning to the very end if possible. We're happy to get involved towards the end of the process, and we do that all the time as well. But we find that the games tend to turn out better when we're involved sooner.
Good feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I actually wanted to give a lot of information, but you know, your answer was like kind of making me nervous. Copy paste. No, we usually we try to standardize it actually. Trying actually, and in reality, it turns out to be very a kind of wide variety of deal terms. But we try to work on a minimum guarantee basis, so we pay out a minimum guarantee if we really believe in the game, and then there's a recoupment with the revenue share. So that's and then there's another part which is the media. We guarantee also in certain cases we guarantee media. TV media for Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and
that's a unique one. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure how to answer this one either. We can't go into too much detail about the deal terms, but I mean we work on a very fair deal with our developers. Much more standard template. Pretty much the only changes will be minimum guarantees. Also, if the developer needs a little bit more recoupable funding just to get over the line. Unlike Sean, we like to come in quite late because we want a game that's pretty much the finished package that we can sign and ship within 2 months, and that's because we're a small team at Rovio and Rovio Stars, so we don't have the resources to hold a developer's hand right from the beginning, and I'm not sure we want to either.
Well, I guess I can give you more information on about how we deal with developers on the pre-agreement stage. Well, first is receiving a build with a game presentation, then just testing with our team, and the game is tested by as many people as possible in order to get various opinions on that, on game mechanics, on the plot, on everything. And then analytics team works to define the target audience and to estimate how many games of this similar genre or maybe something in between are in top grossing. In top 10 or top 100 top grossing, then we can estimate how much we can earn with this game, and maybe then it's the game goes to a producer who makes a conclusion on the basis of the previous stages, and finally it goes to top managers, and this can last for months and many months, really. Indeed.
So your submission process takes actually a few
Yes.
months. Okay.
Well, sometimes, basically it can take 2 weeks, but but not each time, because it's very difficult to find a game that's used as well, that you feel that will work for you.
Okay, that's a fair answer. So is everybody still awake, or because I'm keen to see some questions from the audience.
So, we've got a great bunch of panelists up here. Let's get some questions out. Does anyone want to kick it off? I have plenty, as you might imagine. So, I mean, let's start off. I think the topic that came up earlier about what genres are limited. There's an argument I'm constantly making, which I think that we can make better games using the free-to-play model. And my argument comes down to that we have to. Because we have to get an audience to the point where they will stay playing our game when they haven't actually invested any money. Are you guys seeing this kind of difference in terms of free-to-play audiences? Are we seeing attitudes changing in developers about how they approach the early moments of a game and how they retain players. I mean, I'd love to know what you guys are seeing and happening in the trends in game design that are having the most effect, particularly how that influences your decision to take them on board or not.
I guess. So prior to Big Fish, I actually spent some time with Facebook Games at a company called Playdom, which was bought by Disney. We were the number 2 runner behind Zynga for a long time. And we were trying to fast follow Zynga, which was fast following everybody else, which I think made us sort of a medium to slow follower. But in the Facebook days, we were kind of focused on 2 things. And one was early retention of customers. So get them in a funnel, get them to stick in the game. The second thing we did was get them to spam all their friends to get them to add the game to their list of games that they were playing. Beyond that, we didn't really care too much, and it's actually one of the reasons why I left. I missed working on games that I actually cared about. These were viral games designed to be viral games, and sort of what we called honeypots. I think you're absolutely right. The opportunity now is to make games that continue to be fun, continue to be good. And the mind shift that we're seeing in the world now is people actually caring about making games that people care about. That's valuable. So the way I think about free-to-play games, and it doesn't matter what genre it is, and this I think why I answered the question I did, aside from the examples that other genres are successful, is that you're constantly putting on a show. Think of it like a carnival, right? And if I stop juggling, you're gone, right? If I stop doing something interesting, you're going on to something else. So we have to keep entertaining you. If we're not doing that, you're going to get bored and move on. So we have to be juggling, we have to be throwing darts at somebody, we have to do something cool. And we know that events in games are extremely popular. We're running Halloween events in our games right now, a lot of stuff going on. And those things keep people interested, they keep it fresh, they keep them aware that we're still interested in the game too. So those things are, to me, critical, and for me, one of the reasons why getting back into quote-unquote social games or free-to-play games has actually been a good thing. I ran away from it, now I'm kind of running back into it because the mind shift has started to occur where the quality actually does matter.
Well, our experience in the deal flow is that we meet some developers who come from the console or PC space and are having this emotional still rejection of going into free-to-play. So I was talking to another developer who was having a game in preparation in alpha with a really good brand, and we loved the game, and then they decided to actually do it premium first and then make it free-to-play. So we have a very bad feeling about this actually, and actually most games that were premium and then we kind of, hey, we have everything in place, the shop is kind of there, we're just gonna unbundle it, and then it's going to work. I don't think this is going to work out, and it needs to be really, I guess, developed from early days as designed as a free-to-play game. So we see some resistance left, but I think this is going to rapidly change. And
it's an interesting one because I think there's a sort of early access pass like the Steam thing. You could argue beta testers might be willing to pay. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I think we could discuss another time. Sorry, Matthew, I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Well, actually, I'm wondering whether anyone is making premium games yet, because 99% of developers we were talking to this during this year are making free-to-play games. So I guess that's.
I go to a hell of a lot of conferences, and I often use the line, "Who's making a premium game?" See the hands put up, and I say that they're the living dead. You know, they're zombies, they're dead, they just don't know it yet. But what's funny, I'm actually seeing some developers starting to use paid as a sort of flagship of quality. And so they're trying to beat the discovery by putting a paid app up front. And I think there's a window of opportunity right now where people can be successful at that. But if you're doing that now, it's probably too late because that opportunity, I suspect, will just go away very quickly. Does that make sense? Anyone agree with that, disagree with that?
Actually, I disagree. I think the premium market's still extremely strong. The lion's share of the revenue we make on the PC side on Big Fish is still premium, is forecast to remain premium for a very long time. I think the App Store can be an illusion sometimes in terms of what's popular and what's not if you look at top grossing. There's still a top paid chart, and it's still meaningful, and you still see high value brands, and you see really good games go out. And I think to your point, if you go out with confidence and you say, we're charging $6.99 for this game because we believe in it, it's still a viable business model. And not all games are designed to be free to play, or should they? I think it's still a viable option to make a premium game or make a free to play game. It comes down to marrying the right game design with the right business economy and then finding the right channels to support it.
We have a disagreement. Fantastic. I love that. I mean, it's true though. You know, Sean's absolutely right. There is plenty of space for all sorts of things. It's just your revenue expectations need to be set accordingly, don't they? Anyone else got any comments on that before we ask for another question? So, any more questions? Or have we got to the stage of the afternoon where it's getting a little harder to keep our eyes open after the drinking the night before? Oh, there's a question at the back here. Guy in the purplish top.
Hello. Just for the record, I do want to ask anybody have idea what after free-to-play game? Are there anything after free-to-play games? Thank you.
So what comes after the free-to-play game?
Well, I think what comes after a free-to-play game has got to be, there's going to have to be the shift of, you know, we were a big part of the race to the bottom at 99 cents. So maybe the next race will be like the race to the top. So we're going to make like really high-quality console games and drop them for like $20 on the App Store. And everybody will start raising their prices. That's the best I can do with
That's
that
XCOM,
question.
isn't it? XCOM have tried that. They haven't done too badly, though. XCOM have done that, haven't they? You know, the 14, was it 14.99? You know, and they did pretty well early on. I don't know, I haven't kept track of how they've stayed in the charts. Does anyone know how well they've done?
No, I think they had like a couple weeks of success and then it dropped pretty quickly. But I think they probably banked, you know, 5 to 10 million in those first couple weeks.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I've spent lots of time looking at monetization of different games. When I was running a 3E store back in 2005, you know, we were the first team to actually start looking at variable pricing and looking at kind of rent and buy and all that sort of thing. And we saw a very clear pattern. If you had a game and you sold it, you got a big peak and it dropped off. If you instead had game launched at £6, then £3, then £1, you saw the same peak every time you changed the price. And that was the first hint I had of when you start working as a service. So I stopped doing sales in 2004. The reason I stopped doing sales is because when we had a sale, we had 3 times the revenue that month. The following 2 months, we had a third of the revenue. In the end, we got nothing extra out of it. But when we started introducing this variable kind of planned, managed, reliable, predictable opportunities for people to want to spend money, what we found is that people gradually started to spend more. And it no longer became about a game costing you £6. It's if I spent £6 now, that's only £3 more than if I bought it in 6 weeks' time. I knew it was going to be £3 in 6 weeks' time, so my buying decision was only on the £3. I knew it was going to be a good game because it was reliable from the store, and therefore I was going to upsell myself. So I saw a massive opportunity. If you manage services rather than just products, you have a huge opportunity. Sorry. Anyone else got a comment on that?
I don't disagree with you at all. I think that's exactly right. When you run sales in a regular way, it becomes predictable, and people will save their money until there's a sale. That's just classic marketing, merchandising. In a free-to-play game, each one of the games is basically its own business model. It's its own business, its own P&L, even is the way we operate. So if you run constant sales, then you're going to expect to basically have what we call hangovers constantly, which is you're pulling all your money forward, and people will go into a savings spree afterwards and not spend money until things are on sale again. They get used to a new price point. So you have to be creative, and you have to be thinking about how to manage your game as a live operation and then as a business. And that's a different skill set. It's a skill set usually dedicated to, I mean, it's what we've been doing as a portal for 11 years, so we kind of have that experience. And a lot of other companies do as well, but that's just something that you need to be thinking about is, okay, we need more money, let's just, you know, drop the price by half and see what happens. So we've been managing a game called Casino for a while now. We bought a company about a year and a half ago now. It took about 15 months to really figure out how to dial that game in and grow the revenue and grow us up the charts. And I don't know if you saw Paul Thielen's keynote, but he had a great chart. He shared a lot of confidential information, but it was a great chart, and it showed its position in the app chart and its revenue over the time. And it was kind of like this for a long time, and then it just went up and it stuck, and it's been sticking to the top of the charts for a long time. That is largely due to the focus of a team, as well as the education of the team learning how to manage sales, manage the economy, and really drive the events in that game to keep people wanting to spend money in the game, not having to spend the money, not doing it only for sales, but really wanting to do it, and then managing that experience so that they know when they want to, they know why they want to, and they have a value for doing it.
I think at the end of the day, what this says, I think what we've been saying throughout the day here, is that we're seeing the industry becoming more professional in the tools and education and the resources and the use of data, but not forgetting that at the heart we're a creative industry producing material which is supposed to endlessly delight our players. And as long as we keep those together, when we have a fighting chance. But it doesn't surprise me that we've gone through a cycle where there's been a whole change, a smashing of expectation, complete disruption, where publishers did, for a while, start to be thought of as unneeded. But now I think we're now seeing that was never quite true, and now the publishing business is starting to come back. Is that a fair judgment, or what do you guys think?
I'm in. Do I have a cup of coffee? We can talk this out. I think you're right, and I've heard this a lot lately, and I actually just came in from London earlier this week, where I was at another conference, and there were, I think, 3 panels on publishers versus developers, are they needed, and the whole thing. And I think there's been a lot of sort of, I don't know, manufactured controversy over this. And I think part of it is a reaction to the old days of retail, and we're seeing success stories with like Supercell, and they launch a game, and Rovio even, where they launch a game and they're on the top of the charts, and well, they're kind of independent, right? And in some cases, yes, and they won the lottery, and that's awesome, and they did a great job and a great game. In other cases, well, actually, they're super well funded, they've taken 50 shots at it, and you know, all those kinds of things, and they still got lucky, and they still had a great game, and a lot of other things went right, but it's not a business model, it's not something that you can replicate and keep doing. That doesn't mean that's not a reason not to be a self-publisher. You can absolutely do it, and I think that there is a chance for people to succeed at it. But over time, and I think part of the reason why this conversation keeps coming up, the question about whether publishers are necessary or not, is that the chances for an independent developer finding success are decreasing over time, not increasing, decreasing. And we're going to find more reliance on publishers over time. And we are seeing some of that. We've got a bunch of publishers sitting at the table saying, this is what we do for you, and it's intriguing and it's valuable. And the fit between the developer and the publisher is even more important, and it's not just deal terms. It's about what they provide for you and what you need, and customizing that relationship. And internally, we call it partnership, not publishing developer. We call it a partnership. We call it a collaboration. And that's intentional, because it needs to work well together, otherwise it will fail. And so that's kind of our approach. It's our philosophy. It's been our philosophy for a number of years.
Sounds good to me. We have one last question, then we'll close it up.
Hello, guys. I have one question for you, for all of you. What about next year trend genres? Trends.
I think it's pretty clear. I've been to a lot of conferences this year, and the trend genre is everybody's making Clash of Clans. I think I got Gamescom. I think I had 11 Clash of Clans pitched to me of the 40 meetings that I had.
Yeah. It's a good trend or not? What do you think about it?
I don't think, I mean, for Rovio, our neighbors are Supercell. I'm not going to publish a Clash of Clans clone. For other companies, it could be pretty attractive. And then, of course, the other trend is everybody's getting into, you know, slapping on Candy Crush monetization onto all sorts of titles. And that's going to continue for a long time.
As I mentioned earlier, I think what will happen is that we will have more mixes of genres. We see many things, as I previously said, poker with trading card, or match 3 with trading card, battle card games. So finally, I think the TCG trading card game trend will continue in the next year, I believe. It will get, I think, more sophisticated, more core, I would believe, because the frankly speaking, the TCG games that have been out there, Blood Brothers and so forth, they're not really core and not satisfying the, I would say, core TCG gamer, and Blizzard and I think Riot Games, even on the PC, will launch TCG games, so that will continue to that buzz around TCG will be, I think, dominating subject in the next year. And other than that, just mix, I think, of different genres.
We have also started looking into mid-core, and I think we understand casual audience pretty good now, but mid-core is a big challenge. That's because it's a chance to publish more high-quality games, more engaging games, more ways to interact with the user, and more ways to implement monetization in-app purchases.
All right, that's a wrap then.
Cool. So, I don't think we have time. I would love to, but I know David's got to go get a plane. So if we went any longer, he'd be in risk of missing his taxi. I do apologise. So with that, though, I would like to thank Martin, Sean, David, Matthew, and Evgeny. Thanks, guys. That was a great session.
Thanks.